Day 666, Sunday, June 8th. Ezekiel 29:17-21, and Ezekiel 30:1-19. Ezekiel 29:17-21 NKJV. And it came to pass in the 27th year, in the first month, on the first day of the month, that the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon caused his army to labor strenuously against Tyre. Every head was made bald, and every shoulder rubbed raw, yet neither he nor his army received wages from Tyre for the labor which they expended on it. Therefore thus says the Lord God, Surely I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon. He shall take away her wealth, carry off her spoil, and remove her pillage, and that will be the wages for his army. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, because they worked for me, says the Lord God. In that day I will cause the horn of the house of Israel to spring forth, and I will open your mouth to speak in their midst. Then they shall know that I am the Lord. Ezekiel 31:19, NKJV. The word of the Lord came to me again, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus says the Lord God, Wail, woe to the day! For the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near. It will be a day of clouds, the time of the Gentiles. The sword shall come upon Egypt, and great anguish shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain fall in Egypt, and they take away her wealth, and her foundations are broken down. Ethiopia, Libya, Lydia, all the mingled people, Chub, and the men of the lands who are allied, shall fall with them by the sword. Thus says the Lord, Those who uphold Egypt shall fall, and the pride of her power shall come down. From Migdol to Syene those within her shall fall by the sword, says the Lord God. They shall be desolate in the midst of the desolate countries, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are laid waste. Then they will know that I am the Lord, when I have set a fire in Egypt, and all her helpers are destroyed. On that day messengers shall go forth from me in ships to make the careless Ethiopians afraid, and great anguish shall come upon them, as on the day of Egypt, for indeed it is coming. Thus says the Lord God, I will also make a multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon. He and his people with him, the most terrible of the nations, shall be brought to destroy the land. They shall draw their swords against Egypt, and fill the land with the slain. I will make the rivers dry, and sell the land into the hand of the wicked. I will make the land waste, and all that is in it, by the hand of aliens. I, the Lord, have spoken. Thus says the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols, and cause the images to cease from Noph. There shall no longer be princes from the land of Egypt. I will put fear in the land of Egypt. I will make Pathros desolate, set fire to Zoan, and execute judgments in Nob. I will pour my fury on Sin, the strength of Egypt. I will cut off the multitude of No, and set a fire in Egypt. Sin shall have great pain, No shall be split open, and Noph shall be in distress daily. The young men of Avon and Pi Beseth shall fall by the sword, and these cities shall go into captivity. At Tehaphnehes the day shall also be darkened, when I break the yokes of Egypt there, and her arrogant strength shall cease in her. As for her, a cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. Thus I will execute judgments on Egypt, then they shall know that I am the Lord. Daily Deep Dive. The UCG reading plan states, in the spring of 571 BC, 2 years after Ezekiel's vision of the temple, the prophet receives one more dated prophecy. Jeremiah has already been taken to Egypt by the remnant of Judah, against his warnings from God. He prophesied that Nebuchadnezzar would take Egypt. Jeremiah 43:10-13, Jeremiah 4:4-30. Ezekiel 2 has already received a series of prophecies about the coming fall of Egypt to the Babylonians. See the other prophecies of Ezekiel 29-32. God now gives Ezekiel 2 more prophetic messages concerning Egypt, which the prophet includes with the section of his book dealing with that nation. Ezekiel is told that God will give Egypt into Nebuchadnezzar's hand, as payment for the work the ruler of Babylon unwittingly performed on God's behalf, especially against Tyre. Ezekiel 29:18-20. As a fulfillment of God's judgment on Tyre, Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian army laid siege to Tyre for 13 years. Cf. Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews, 10-228 Chi. The scant historical data indicates that Egypt and Tyre became allies under Pharaoh Hophra-Apries. The extended siege of Tyre was perhaps due to the aid Tyre received from the Egyptians. In such an act, Hophra was going contrary to God's purposes. Not only was the siege prolonged by Egyptian support, but some also surmised that Egypt's maritime aid enabled Tyre to send away her wealth for security during the siege. Expositor's Bible Commentary, note on Ezekiel 29:17-21. As you may recall from our reading of Ezekiel 26 and the prophecies against Tyre, in spite of 13 years of siege, Nebuchadnezzar failed to capture the island fortress and its store of wealth. God says here that he will give him Egypt to make up for it. The meaning of Ezekiel 29:21, in which God says he will cause the horn of the house of Israel to spring forth, is uncertain. Given in the same context as the opening of Ezekiel's mouth, it is usually interpreted to mean that the Jewish exiles would be strengthened or encouraged at the time of Egypt's fall to Babylon, along with further encouraging messages from the prophet that are unrecorded. Yet given the duality in these prophetic sections concerning Egypt, verse 21 could perhaps refer to a strengthened end-time Israel finally receiving Ezekiel's prophecies. Yet there is another possibility. While the horn can symbolize national strength or power, it can also represent the power center of a nation, its ruler. Consider that it was during the period of Egypt's ancient destruction that Jeremiah oversaw the transfer of the throne of David from Judah to the House of Israel in the British Isles. See our online publication, The Throne of Britain, Its Biblical Origin and Future. This seems a likely fulfillment of this verse. Ezekiel then receives another prophecy from God, in the first part of chapter 30, the last recorded message in the book. Ezekiel 32:3 mentions the day of the Lord in wording very similar to Joel 2:1-2. In this case, he describes the day as it will be from Egypt's perspective, but the wording fire and desolation is quite similar. Compare Ezekiel 30:7-8, Joel 2:3. However, the imagery need not exclusively apply to the end time. As Expositors notes, Yom Lehu, a day of the Lord, is not a construct state and therefore is not properly translated the day of the Lord, but, literally, a day belonging to the Lord. The word Yom, day, is indefinite twice in this verse. Those who see the day of the Lord here as an earnest of the eschatological, i.e. end-time day of the Lord, cf. Joel, keeping it as a technical expression, generally link together the near and distant future into a singular meaning with multiple fulfillments. Footnote on Ezekiel 33. This seems reasonable, that the ancient time of divine intervention was intended by the passage as well as, in type, the end-time intervention yet to come. Verse 5 mentions other doomed lands in alliance with Egypt. Where the New King James Version has all the mingled people, the New International Version has all Arabia. Expositors explains, the translation Arabia is based on a revocalization of Hatarab Arabia to Arab Arhab Arabia with the Syrian. However, some prefer to read Arab mixed company, since the term is modified by all. The exact meaning is still unclear. Footnote on verse 5. The identity of Chub or Kub is also unclear. Some have proposed the Kobai or Cubians, a people of the Egyptian province of Mareotis in the western Nile Delta mentioned by the ancient Greek geographer Ptolemy. See John Gill's exposition of the entire Bible, note on verse 5, Adam Clarke's commentary, note on verse 5. Nebuchadnezzar evidently laid waste the entire country of Egypt, Migdol to Syene verse 6, that is, Suez to Aswan, denotes, as it did in 29, the whole land from north to south. We read about Noph, Pathros and Tehaphnehes Tahpanhes in connection with Jeremiah's journey to Egypt in Jeremiah 43-44. Noph Memphis, Zoantanus, Sin Pelusium, Avanon or Heliopolis, Pib Seth, Bubastis, and Tehaphnehes Daphne were in the northern Nile Delta region of Egypt. Noth Thebes, Pathros southern Egypt, and Syene Aswan were all in the south. However, this could also refer to destruction meted out over time, by Nebuchadnezzar, yes, but also by later invaders. Notice the prophecy of verse 13. There shall no longer be princes from the land of Egypt. This has been understood to mean that the rulers of Egypt would no longer be native Egyptian. Under Babylonian rule, the pharaoh was subject to the Babylonian emperor. Yet, although a vassal, the pharaoh did rule as king and was Egyptian. This changed after the invasion by the Persian emperor Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great. When the last Egyptian king was defeated by Cambyses II in 525 BC, the country entered a period of Persian domination under the 27th dynasty. Egypt reasserted its independence under the 28th and 29th dynasties, but the 30th dynasty was the last one of native rulers' source. At the time of Alexander the Great, Egypt came under Greek rule, which was perpetuated through the dynasty of Alexander's general Ptolemy. This reign was broken when, following in the tradition of the earlier northern empires, the Romans later invaded and took over Egypt as well. Perhaps a similar measure of destruction will come in the last days when the ruler of end-time Babylon, the future Roman emperor and king of the north, invades and assumes control of Egypt, as described in Daniel 11:40-43. End.